The stars were quiet that night. Lieutenant Kyle Bennett sat alone in his small patrol ship, watching the endless black space through his window. He was far from Earth, far from home, doing a simple job. His mission was to check for problems in the Orion Belt area. Nothing exciting, nothing dangerous. Just flying and watching. Kyle was 26 years old. He had brown hair, kind eyes, and a calm way of speaking. People liked him because he was honest and never showed off. He had joined the space military 5 years ago, and he was good at his job. Not the best, but good enough. His ship was called the Starward. It was small, with just enough room for one person and some supplies. Kyle liked it. The quiet helped him think. He was about to eat his dinner when his computer made a sound. A signal. Someone was sending a call for help. Kyle put down his food and looked at the screen. The signal was weak, coming from somewhere nearby. He could not understand the language, but the message was clear. Someone needed help. He thought for a moment. His orders were simple. Patrol the area. Report anything strange. Do not take risks. But someone was in trouble. Kyle made his choice. He turned his ship toward the signal dot. It took him 30 minutes to find the source. When he saw the other ship, he stopped breathing for a moment. It was like nothing he had ever seen. The ship was not made of metal. It looked alive. Its surface moved slowly, like skin, and strange lights glowed across it. Blue and purple colors danced on the hull. The ship was damaged. Kyle could see holes in its side, marks from weapons. Someone had attacked it. He moved closer, careful and slow. His computer tried to scan the ship, but the technology was too different. He could not understand what he was looking at. Kyle sent a message. This is Lieutenant Kyle Bennett of the Human Space Force. I received your distress signal. Do you need help? No answer came. He waited. Still nothing. Kyle looked at the damaged ship. Whoever was inside might be hurt. They might be dying. If he waited too long, it could be too late. He made another choice. He put on his spacesuit and went outside. The walk from his ship to the alien ship was short but scary. Kyle had done spacewalks before, but never to an unknown vessel. He did not know what waited for him inside. He found a hole in the ship's hull, big enough to enter. Inside, the air was thin but breathable. The walls were soft, almost warm, and they glowed with a faint light. It was like being inside a living thing. Kyle moved slowly, following a path that seemed to lead deeper into the ship. He heard sounds. Soft crying. Like a child. His heart beat faster. He walked toward the sound. He found them in a small room near the center of the ship. 2 aliens. One was big, lying on the floor, covered in silver blood. The other was small, very small, holding on to the bigger one and crying. Kyle stopped and stared. The aliens had silver skin that shone like metal. The big one had 4 arms, long legs, and a face that was almost human, but not quite. Her eyes were closed. Purple blood came from wounds on her chest and stomach. The small one was a child. She looked at Kyle with huge purple eyes, full of fear and tears. She had the same silver skin, the same 4 arms, but she was tiny. Maybe 4 or 5 years old, if aliens counted age the same way humans did. Kyle raised his hand slowly, showing he had no weapons. It is okay, he said softly. I am here to help. The child did not understand his words, but she understood his voice. She stopped crying and watched him with those big eyes. Kyle knelt next to the wounded alien. She was alive, but barely. Her breathing was weak. If he did not do something soon, she would die. He did not think about the risk. He did not think about what his commanders would say. He just acted. I am going to pick you up, he said to the child, still speaking softly. And I am going to take your mother to my ship. I am going to help her. Do you understand? I want to help." The child stared at him. Then, slowly, she let go of her mother and reached toward Kyle. He picked her up carefully. She was light, lighter than a human child would be. Her skin was cool against his suit, and she made a small sound, like a chirp. Then he turned to the mother. She was heavy, but Kyle was strong. He lifted her as gently as he could and began the long walk back to his ship. It was hard. The child held onto his neck while he carried the mother in his arms. His muscles hurt. His lungs burned. But he did not stop. When he finally got them aboard the Starboard, he was exhausted. But he could not rest. The mother was dying. Kyle knew basic medicine. All space soldiers did. He cleaned the wounds, stopped the bleeding, and used the emergency supplies in his ship to keep her alive. It was not perfect. He did not know alien biology, but he did his best. The child watched everything. She sat in the corner of the small ship, her eyes never leaving Kyle. She did not cry anymore. She just watched. Hours passed. Kyle worked until he could not work anymore. Finally, the mother's breathing became stronger. The bleeding stopped. She would live. Kyle sat down, more tired than he had ever been in his life. The child moved closer to him. She looked at his face for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, uncertain and shy. But it was real. She reached out with one of her small hands and touched his cheek. Kyle smiled back. "You are welcome," he said. He set a course for the nearest human station. It would take 3 days to get there. 3 days with 2 alien passengers he knew nothing about. Kyle had no idea what he had done. He did not know that the woman he had saved was High Consort Velareth, the sister of Queen Maleth, ruler of the Zithrani Empire. He did not know that the child was Princess Kira, the only heir to one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. He did not know that this one act of kindness would change his life forever. All he knew was that 2 people had needed help, and he had helped them. That was enough. The child fell asleep next to him, her small hand still touching his arm. Kyle watched the stars through his window and wondered what would happen next. He had no way of knowing that the answer to that question would shake the entire galaxy. 10 years passed like water through fingers. Commander Kyle Bennett was now 36 years old. His hair had some gray in it, and there were lines around his eyes from years of staring at stars. He was still kind, still honest, still the same man who had saved 2 aliens from a dying ship. But life had changed him in small ways. He served as second in command on the Horizon's Edge, a large exploration ship with a crew of 200. His captain was a tough woman named Laura Price, and Kyle respected her deeply. They had worked together for 3 years, mapping new systems and making first contact with minor alien species. It was a good life. Quiet, sometimes boring, but good. Kyle still had the crystal pendant. He kept it in a drawer in his quarters, tucked under old photographs and forgotten letters. Sometimes he looked at it and remembered the little girl with purple eyes. Sometimes he wondered what had happened to her, but mostly he forgot. Life was busy. There was always another mission, another problem, another day. Far away on the Zithrani homeworld, Princess Kira did not forget that she had grown into a young woman now. At 24 years old, she was tall and graceful, her silver skin marked with the beginnings of the golden patterns that showed her royal blood. She had her mother's intelligence and her aunt's fierce heart. She was beautiful by any standard. But she was also lonely. Being the heir to an empire was hard. Everyone wanted something from her. Power, favor, alliance. People bowed to her, but they did not see her. They saw the crown she would one day wear, except for one person. A human, who had seen her crying in the dark and had chosen to help. Kira had spent 10 years studying humans. She learned their language until she could speak it perfectly. She read their books, watched their broadcasts, learned their history. She paid attention to every piece of news that came from human space. And she watched Kyle. Her people had ways of gathering information. She knew about his promotions, his assignments, his life. She knew he had never married. She knew he was respected by his crew. She knew he still carried the pendant her mother had given him. Her mother, Queen Melith, noticed everything. "You watch him again," Melith said one evening, finding Kira in front of a screen showing a human news broadcast. Kira did not look away from the screen. "I am studying their culture." "You are studying one human in particular." Melith sat down next to her daughter. "The one who saved you. There was no point in lying." Kira nodded. "Why?" Melith asked. "He is mortal. His life is short. He will grow old and die while you are still young." "I know." Kira finally turned to look at her mother. "But I cannot forget him. When everyone else saw us as aliens, as something strange and scary, he saw us as people who needed help. He did not think about reward. He did not think about danger. He just helped." Melith was quiet for a moment. "That is true. It is rare. I have met many males," Kira continued. "Zethrani nobles who want my power. Alien princes who want alliance with our empire. They all want something. But he wanted nothing. He was kind because kindness was right." "And you think he is still the same?" 10 years have passed. "People change." Kira shook her head. "I've watched him. Read reports about him. He is still the same. Still kind. Still honest. Still good." Melith studied her daughter carefully. "What do you want, Kira? Speak plainly." Kira took a deep breath. "I want to meet him again. I want to know if he is truly as I remember. I want to understand why he did what he did." "And if he is everything you remember?" Kira hesitated. This was the hard part. The part she had never said out loud. "Then I want to know him better," she whispered. "Much better." Melith leaned back. Her 6 eyes closed for a moment, and Kira could not tell what she was thinking. "You understand what you are asking," Melith said finally. "If you pursue this human, there will be consequences. Our people do not accept outsiders easily. There are nobles who would rather see you dead than bonded to an alien. I know. Your claim to the throne could be challenged. Our empire could be divided. I know. And still you want this?" Kira met her mother's eyes, all 6 of them. "I want a chance," she said. "Just a chance. To see if what I feel is real or just a child's memory. Is that too much to ask?" Melith was silent for a long time. Kira's heart pounded as she waited. Then the queen smiled. It was a small smile, almost sad, but real. "I was young once too," Melith said softly. "I remember what it was like to want something everyone said I could not have." She stood up and looked down at her daughter. "Very well, I will summon him." Kira felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Mother. Do not thank me yet. This path will be hard. Harder than anything you have faced. But I believe in you, Kira. I always have." She walked toward the door, then stopped. "One more thing. When he comes, I will not force anything. If he refuses you, you must accept it with grace. Do you understand?" Kira nodded. "I understand." "Good. Then prepare yourself. I will send the message tonight." And she did. The message traveled across the galaxy at impossible speed, carried by technology humans did not yet understand. It passed through relay stations and jumped through special channels until it reached the horizon's edge. Commander Kyle Bennett was in the middle of a normal day, when every screen on the ship suddenly went dark. Then they lit up again, showing the royal seal of the Zethrani Empire. Everyone stopped what they were doing. The bridge went silent. And then Queen Melith's face appeared. "Commander Kyle Bennett of the human vessel Horizon's Edge," she said. "I, Queen Melith of the Zethrani Empire, formally request your presence at our homeworld. This is not a diplomatic mission. This is a personal matter." She paused. Kyle felt his heart stop. My daughter calls for you." The message ended. Kyle stood frozen while everyone stared at him. "Sir," Lieutenant Neil Walsh said carefully, "did the Zithrani Queen just summon you?" Kyle nodded slowly. His mind was racing, going back 10 years to a damaged ship and a crying child. "Because your daughter calls for you?" Nina continued. Apparently, Kyle managed to say. Captain Price stepped forward. Her face was serious. "Bennett, what is this about? What does the Zithrani princess want with you?" Kyle took a deep breath. 10 years ago, I saved her life. I found her ship destroyed, her aunt wounded, and I brought them both to safety. I thought it was over." He looked at the blank screen where the Queen's face had been. I guess it was not over. The next few days were chaos. High Command sent orders. Diplomats sent warnings. Everyone had an opinion about what Kyle should do. In the end, the choice was simple. He had to go. Kyle packed a small bag and boarded a shuttle. As he left the horizon's edge, he looked back at the ship that had been his home for 3 years. He did not know when he would see it again. He did not know what waited for him on the Zithrani homeworld. All he knew was that somewhere across the stars, a princess was calling for him. And Kyle Bennett had never been able to ignore someone who needed him. The 3 days on the starboard were strange but peaceful. Kyle took care of his passengers as best as he could. The mother, Valarith, woke up on the second day. She could not speak his language, but she understood that he had saved her life. She looked at him with those purple eyes, and something passed between them. Respect, maybe. Or gratitude. The child was different. She was curious about everything. She touched the buttons on his control panel. She looked at his food with confusion. She tried to talk to him in her strange language, making soft sounds that Kyle could not understand. But she smiled at him, often, and Kyle found himself smiling back. When they reached the human station, everything changed. The station commander was a serious woman named Captain Morris. She looked at the 2 aliens with shock, then looked at Kyle with even more shock. "Lieutenant," she said slowly, "do you know what you have brought here?" Kyle shook his head. 2 survivors from an attacked ship. I found them in distress." Captain Morris was quiet for a long moment. Then she took Kyle aside and spoke in a low voice. "That ship you found. We identified it. It belongs to the Zithrani Empire." Kyle felt his stomach drop. Everyone knew about the Zithrani. They were one of the most powerful alien civilizations in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of species over thousands of years. Humans had never dealt with them directly, but the stories were not good. The Zithrani were strong, proud, and dangerous. "Are they going to be angry?" Kyle asked. Captain Morris shook her head. "I do not know. But we sent a message to their space. Told them we have 2 of their people. We are waiting for a response." The response came 3 days later. It was not a message. It was a fleet. 20 Zithrani warships appeared around the station like ghosts. They were huge, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their organic hulls glowed with power, and their weapons were visible even from a distance. Kyle stood at the window of the station and watched them arrive. His heart was pounding. This was it. Either humanity had made a friend, or they had made a terrible enemy. The station received a communication. A single voice, speaking perfect human language. "This is Queen Melith of the Zithrani Empire. I am coming aboard. You will not resist." No one resisted. Kyle was brought to the main meeting room along with Valarith and the child. He stood at attention, trying to look calm. He was not calm. He was terrified. The doors opened. Queen Melith was the most impressive being Kyle had ever seen. She was tall, taller than any human, with silver skin covered in golden patterns that seemed to glow with inner light. She had 6 eyes, all of them purple and sharp, and they moved independently, seeing everything at once. She wore robes of dark blue that flowed around her like water, and she moved with the grace of a predator. Behind her came guards in armor that looked like it was grown, not made. They held weapons that hummed with energy. Queen Melith looked at her sister first. Belarith bowed her head, and the queen touched her face gently. They spoke in their language, soft words that Kyle could not understand. Then Melith looked at the child. The little girl ran to her, and Melith picked her up with two of her arms. She held the child close, her expression softening for just a moment. Finally, she looked at Kyle. Her eyes studied him. All six of them. Kyle felt like she was looking into his soul, seeing every thought he had ever had, every choice he had ever made. Then she did something no one expected. She bowed. It was not a deep bow, but it was real. The queen of the Zithrani Empire bowed to a human lieutenant. The room was silent. Even the guards looked shocked. "You saved my sister," Melith said. Her voice was deep and powerful, but not unkind. "You saved my daughter." The Zithrani do not forget such debts. Kyle did not know what to say. He just stood there, frozen. "Name your reward, human," Melith continued. "Land, wealth, power. Whatever you want, I will give it to you." Kyle finally found his voice. I do not want anything, Your Majesty." Melith tilted her head. Her eyes showed curiosity. "Nothing? You saved the heir to my empire, and you want nothing?" "I did what was right," Kyle said simply. "They were hurt. They needed help. I helped them. That is all." The queen was quiet for a long moment. Everyone in the room held their breath. Then Melith laughed. It was a surprising sound, warm and real. "Interesting," she said. "Most species would demand everything they could get. You ask for nothing." She stepped closer to Kyle, and he forced himself not to step back. "Perhaps humans are not as primitive as our records say." She reached into her robes and pulled out a small object. It was a crystal, about the size of Kyle's thumb, hanging on a silver chain. It glowed with soft inner light. "Take this," she said, placing it in his hand. "The debt remains. If you ever have need of the Zithrani Empire, if you ever face danger you cannot defeat alone, use this crystal. Call for us, and we will come." Kyle looked at the crystal. It was warm in his hand, and he could feel something like a heartbeat inside it. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said. Melith nodded. Then she turned to leave, still holding her daughter. But the child did something that surprised everyone. She reached out toward Kyle with her small hand and made a sound. A word, maybe. Kyle did not understand it, but he understood what it meant. She was saying goodbye. And she did not want to go. Melith looked at her daughter, then at Kyle. Something passed across her face. Curiosity, perhaps. Or something deeper. "My daughter remembers kindness," she said softly. "She will not forget you, human." Then she left, taking her sister and her daughter with her. The warships departed as quickly as they had come. Disappearing into the darkness of space. Kyle was left standing in the meeting room, holding a crystal pendant and wondering what had just happened. The station commander looked at him with wide eyes. "Do you realize what you did?" she asked. Kyle shook his head. "You made a friend of the Zithrani Empire. One man, one act of kindness. And you changed everything." Kyle looked at the pendant in his hand. He thought about the little girl with purple eyes who had smiled at him. He thought about her small hand touching his cheek. He had a feeling this was not the end of the story. He was right. 10 years would pass. Kyle would rise through the ranks, becoming a commander. He would serve on different ships, see different worlds, live a full life. He would almost forget about the alien child he had saved, but she would not forget him. In the crystal spires of the Zithrani homeworld, Princess Kira would grow up thinking about the human who had carried her through the dark. She would learn his language. She would study his people. She would watch his career from across the galaxy. And one day, she would call for him. But that is a story for another time. For now, Kyle tucked the pendant away and returned to his duties. He had a job to do, a life to live. The galaxy was big, and he was just one man. He had no idea how much that was about to change. The journey to the Zithrani homeworld took 3 weeks. Kyle spent that time preparing. He studied everything humans knew about the Zithrani, which was not much. He learned their basic customs, their greetings, their ways of showing respect. He practiced saying simple words in their language, but mostly, he thought about the little girl he had saved. She would be a woman now. 24 years old, if aliens counted age like humans did. She was a princess, heir to one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. What could she possibly want with a simple human commander? The queen's words echoed in his mind. My daughter calls for you. What did that mean? Was he in trouble? Was this some kind of political game? Or was it something else entirely? Kyle did not know. All he could do was go and find out. When his shuttle finally arrived at the Zithrani homeworld, he forgot all his worries for a moment. The planet was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. It was covered in crystal. Not metal or stone, but actual living crystal that grew and changed and glowed with inner light. Cities rose like sculptures, their towers reaching toward twin suns that painted everything in gold and silver. Oceans sparkled with colors Kyle had no names for. Forests pulsed with soft light, like the planet itself was breathing. Beautiful, Kyle whispered to himself. His shuttle was guided down by 2 Zithrani ships that flew beside him like guards. They brought him to the palace, which was the most impressive structure of all. It rose from the center of the largest city like a crown made of light. Its walls shifted colors as the suns moved, and its spires touched the clouds. Kyle landed on a platform near the top. When he stepped out of his shuttle, he found a group waiting for him. There were guards in armor that looked like it had been grown from crystal. There were servants carrying strange objects. And at the front of the group stood a familiar face, High Consort Valarith, the woman he had saved 10 years ago. She looked exactly the same. Silver skin, purple eyes, forearms folded across her chest. But there was warmth in her eyes that had not been there before. Commander Bennett, she said in perfect human language. Welcome to Zithra Prime. Kyle bowed as he had practiced. High Consort. It is an honor. You saved my life, Valarith said simply. You have earned more than honor. She turned and began walking toward the palace. Come. The queen and the princess are waiting. Kyle followed her through hallways that seemed to be made of solid light. The walls were smooth and warm, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Servants stopped to watch him pass, their purple eyes wide with curiosity. A human in the palace. That had never happened before. They reached a large door made of something that looked like gold, but moved like water. Valarith stopped. Beyond this door is the throne room, she said. The entire court is assembled. They want to see the human who saved the royal family. She looked at Kyle with something like sympathy. Are you ready? Kyle took a deep breath. No, but I will go anyway. Valarith smiled. Good answer. The doors opened. The throne room was vast. Columns of crystal lined the walls, and the ceiling was so high it disappeared in the shadows. Hundreds of Zithrani nobles filled the room, standing in rows on either side of a central path. They all turned to look at Kyle as he entered. He walked forward, keeping his eyes straight ahead at the end of the room. On a throne that seemed to be made of frozen starlight sat Queen Malith. She looked exactly as Kyle remembered her. Tall, powerful, her silver skin covered in golden patterns. Her 6 eyes watching everything at once. But Kyle's attention was not on the queen. It was on the young woman standing beside the throne. Princess Kira had grown. She was tall now, graceful, her silver skin marked with the beginnings of golden patterns like her mother's. She wore robes of deep purple that flowed around her like water. Her purple eyes were fixed on Kyle with an intensity that made his heart race. She was beautiful. More beautiful than anything Kyle had ever seen. He stopped at the bottom of the steps leading to the throne and bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," he said. "Your Highness, I have come as requested." Queen Malith leaned forward. "Commander Kyle Bennett, you stand in the presence of the Zithrani Royal Court. You have been summoned at the request of my daughter. Do you understand why?" Kyle straightened. "I believe so, Your Majesty, though I am not certain of the details." "Then let my daughter explain." Princess Kira stepped forward. Her movement was smooth and elegant, but Kyle noticed her lower hands were shaking slightly. She was nervous. "Commander Bennett," she said. Her voice was clear and strong, but soft. 10 years ago, you saved my life. You found me and my aunt in space, hurt and afraid, and you chose to help us. You did not know who we were. You did not expect anything in return. You simply saw people in need and offered aid." She paused. Her eyes never left his face. In Zithrani culture, such an act creates a bond, a debt of life. By our customs, you have a claim on me. A claim that I am here to recognize and, if you are willing, to honor. The room erupted in whispers. Kyle heard shock and anger in the voices around him. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "I do not know your customs well. What exactly are you offering?" Kira's lower hands clasped together. Her upper hands stayed steady at her sides. "I am offering a courtship," she said. "By our traditions, you have the right to pursue me as a potential mate. I am asking you to use that right." The whispers grew louder. Some of the nobles looked furious. Others looked disgusted. A human? With their princess? "Silence," Queen Malith commanded. The room went quiet immediately. She looked at Kyle. "You seem surprised, Commander." "I am, Your Majesty. I saved your daughter because it was the right thing to do. I never expected anything like this. And that is exactly why my daughter finds you worthy," Malith replied. "Most beings are driven by greed or fear. You acted from kindness alone. That is rare." She gestured toward Kira. "My daughter has spent 10 years learning your language and studying your people. Also, she could speak to you directly." Kyle looked at Kira again. She met his gaze steadily, but he could see the vulnerability beneath her royal composure. She had risked everything by making this offer in front of her entire court. "Your Highness," he said softly, "I am honored. But I must be honest. I do not know your culture. I do not know your people. I do not know you." "I know," Kira said. "That is why I asked for courtship, not marriage. Courtship is a time of learning. You would stay here as a guest. You would learn our ways, and I would learn more about yours. At the end, if we find that we do not fit together, you would be free to leave. And if we find that we do fit together..." Kira smiled. It was a small smile, nervous and hopeful. "Then we would talk about what comes next." Kyle was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his career, his life among the stars, everything he would leave behind. He thought about the risks, the politics, the danger of being a human in an alien empire. But he also thought about the crying child who had reached for his face. The young woman who had waited 10 years for this moment. The courage it took for her to stand here and offer herself to rejection. He made his decision. "Your Highness," he said, "I would be honored to accept." Kira's composure cracked. She smiled, bright and warm and real. And Kyle felt something change inside his chest. Around them, the court erupted in noise. But Kyle did not hear any of it. He was too busy looking at the princess, who had just changed his entire life. 6 months passed on the Zethrani homeworld. Kyle learned more about the alien empire than any human had ever known. He studied their history, which stretched back 100,000 years. He learned their customs, their traditions, their beliefs. He discovered that the Zethrani were not the cold conquerors he had imagined. They were complex, proud, passionate. They valued honor and loyalty above all else. And he learned about Kira. She was brilliant. Her mind worked faster than anyone Kyle had ever met. She could solve problems that left him confused, see patterns where he saw nothing. She read constantly, from every species the Zethrani had encountered, always trying to understand more about the universe. She was also funny. When they were alone, away from the court and its watchers, she laughed easily. She told jokes that did not always make sense to Kyle, and she listened to his human humor with genuine interest. She asked questions about everything. What was snow like? How did humans feel about space? Did all humans dream, and what did they dream about? She was lonely too. Kyle saw it in the quiet moments, when she thought no one was watching. The weight of being the only heir, the only hope, the only future of her people. Everyone wanted something from her. No one just wanted her, except Kyle. He wanted nothing but her company, her smile, the sound of her voice. The court did not approve. Many nobles made their feelings clear. A human had no place beside the princess. It was wrong, unnatural, a threat to everything they believed. Some tried to force Kyle to leave. There were accidents that were not accidents. Poison in his food, which a servant caught just in time. A training weapon that malfunctioned during a practice fight. A door that sealed him in a room without air until Kira found him. Kyle did not complain. He did not run. He faced each threat with calm determination, refusing to give anyone the satisfaction of driving him away. Kira noticed. She always noticed. You could leave, she told him one night. They were walking in the palace gardens, surrounded by plants that glowed like lanterns. The twin moons hung low in the sky, painting everything in silver light. No one would blame you. You have done more than anyone could ask. Kyle shook his head. I made a choice. I will not break it, even if they kill you. He looked at her. Her purple eyes were filled with worry, with fear, with something deeper. Even then, he said simply, some things are worth the risk. Kira stopped walking. She turned to face him fully, her 4 hands clasped together. Why? She asked. Why are you doing this? You could go back to your people. You could live a safe, normal life. Why stay here, where everyone wants you gone? Kyle thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times. When I was young, he said slowly, my father told me something. He said that a person's worth is not measured by what they gain, but by what they are willing to sacrifice. Anyone can take the easy path. True strength is choosing the hard path because it is right. He reached out and took one of her hands. Her skin was cool against his, smooth and soft. I did not come here for power or fame, he continued. I came because you asked. Because you trusted me enough to show me who you really are. Because in all the galaxy, with all the options you had, you chose me. He squeezed her hand gently. How could I not stay? Kira stared at him. Then her eyes filled with tears. I have waited 10 years for you, she whispered. 10 years of hoping you were real, that my memories were not just a child's fantasy. And now you are here, and you are better than I ever imagined. I am just a man, Kyle said. Nothing special. You are wrong. Kira stepped closer. You are special because you do not think you are. You are kind without knowing how rare kindness is. You are brave without seeking praise for your courage. You are everything my people have forgotten to be. She reached up with her free hands and touched his face, just as she had done 10 years ago as a child. But this touch was different. This touch held something more. "I love you," she said. "I have loved you since I was 4 years old, crying in the dark, and a strange alien picked me up and carried me to safety. I love you now more than I thought it was possible to love anything." Kyle felt his heart breaking and healing at the same time. He looked into her purple eyes and saw his future reflected there. "I love you too," he said. "I did not know it until now, but I think I started loving you the moment you smiled at me in that tiny ship." Kira laughed through her tears. "We are fools, maybe, but at least we are fools together." He kissed her. It was their first kiss, gentle and uncertain. Two people from different worlds finding their way to each other. Her lips were cool and soft, and when they pulled apart, they were both smiling. "The court will never accept this," Kira said. "They will learn. My people will call you an outsider forever. Let them. I know who I am. There will be more danger. More threats. Perhaps war," Kyle nodded. "I know. But I would rather face danger with you than safety without you." Kira laughed again, bright and warm and full of joy. 3 years later, they were married. The ceremony was held in the great plaza of the Zithrani capital, broadcast across the empire and beyond. Humans watched from their stations and colonies, amazed and proud. Zithrani watched from their crystal cities, some angry, some curious, some hopeful. Queen Malith performed the ceremony herself. She spoke the ancient words that bound two souls together, and she smiled as she said them. Her gamble had paid off. Her daughter had found happiness, and through that happiness, a bridge between two civilizations. Kyle became Prince Consort, a title no human had ever held. He did not rule, but he advised. He spoke for humans in the Zithrani court, and for Zithrani in human councils. He built connections where there had been none, found common ground where everyone expected conflict. And Kira became the queen her people needed. Strong but kind, fierce but fair. She led her empire into a new age, one where conquest was not the only path to greatness. She showed her people that understanding could be more powerful than force. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Old enemies became allies. Old walls became bridges. And at the center of it all, a human and a Zithrani stood together, showing everyone that love could cross any distance. They had children eventually. 3 of them, each one a blend of 2 worlds. The eldest had silver skin and brown eyes. The second had 4 arms and a human smile. The youngest looked almost completely human, but could speak both languages. Before she could walk, the court learned to accept them. Some nobles never changed their minds, but most came to see what Kyle truly was. Not a threat, not an outsider, just a man who had done something kind when kindness was needed, and had been rewarded with the greatest gift the universe could offer. Kyle often thought back to that night in his patrol ship, when he had received a distress signal and made a choice. Such a small decision, such a simple act, and yet it had led him here to a throne room on an alien world. Standing beside the woman he loved, he had saved a child because it was the right thing to do. And that child had grown up to save him right back. Some people said the story was impossible. A human and an alien queen, a soldier and a princess. 2 beings from opposite ends of the galaxy, finding each other against all odds. But Kyle knew the truth. The universe was full of impossible things. Stars that burned for billions of years. Life that grew in the darkness of space. Love that crossed the endless void between worlds. All it took was one person willing to reach out that one act of kindness in the dark, and the courage to see where it led. That was the story of Kyle Bennett and Princess Kira of the Zithrani Empire. A story that began with a rescue and ended with a marriage. A story that proved, once and for all, that humanity's greatest strength was not their ships or their weapons. It was their heart. And that was something no one could ever take away.